Welcome to The Right Question. I'm Daphne Gray Grant. Today we're talking about whether there's any advantage to writing by hand. Today I'm answering a question from Crystal Pilati in Vancouver. She told me she was a little shy about sending in a video, so she came up with this solution.
Hi Daphne, my name's Crystal Pilati from Vancouver, BC, and my question is it better to type or handwrite the first draft? I like both approaches and type very fast. However, several writing books I've read have suggested that there is a hand-brain connection that encourages creativity. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the question, Crystal. It makes me reflect back on my own writing history because I came of age during the time of the typewriter. Back in university in the 1970s, I wrote my 30,000-word honors thesis by hand and then transcribed it onto a typewriter. In my mind, the end of carbon paper and whiteout is only a good thing. Life is so much easier with computers. Before, it was impossible to move chunks of text without retyping everything or using vast quantities of Scotch tape. Now we can move blocks of text and rearrange our writing with ease. But many people ask me the question you've raised. Despite the ease of writing by computers, is writing by hand perhaps better for creativity? There are, in fact, numerous authors who insisted on writing by hand. Vladimir Nabokov, author of the infamous book Lolita, wrote only on cue cards so he could rearrange the story at whim. Truman Capote wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's and In Cold Blood not just by hand, but also while lying down. And acclaimed songwriter and lyricist Stephen Sondheim continues to use black wing pencils and yellow-lined paper with precisely 26 lines. Despite that particular brand of paper being discontinued, he still uses it. He's told the press he has a lifetime supply. All of these quirks aside, the question remains, does writing by hand actually make a difference to your creativity? Of course, researchers have looked at this question, and here's what the evidence tells us. Pencils and paper are indeed better for creativity, but this doesn't mean you should write with them. Instead, the research says you should use them when you're thinking. Noted engineer and Coursera teacher Dr. Barbara Oakley calls this the diffuse stage of writing. She says that when you're in this stage, it's better to write by hand than type. Paper and pencil are also the best tools for mind mapping, and they're equally good for doodling and note-taking. Below, I'm including a link to my videos on mind mapping. But the research says when the time comes to write, switch over to your computer. Why? Our brains work very quickly, and most people can type a lot faster than they can write by hand. Like Sondheim, I've become a blackwing pencil fetishist, and I've spent an unholy sum of money on my own box of pencils and a super-duper pencil sharpener. They've both been worthwhile investments when I've been thinking about what I want to write. But when I'm actually writing, I always rely on my keyboard. I type quickly, about 85 words a minute, which is a whole lot faster than I can write by hand. Another benefit? My typing is always readable, whereas my handwriting usually is not. Be aware, if you've never developed the practice of writing on a keyboard, it may take you a while to adjust. Back in 1984, when I started working at a daily newspaper and made the switch to a keyboard, I found it hard for about 2 months. I almost felt as though part of my brain was missing. As soon as I got through those 2 months, however, I found writing so much easier and so much better than before. I think you'll discover the same thing. In some ways, I think my answer suggests you get to have your cake and eat it too. Use a pencil and paper for thinking and use a keyboard for writing. Finally, let me wrap up with a quote from the writer Clive Thompson, another pencil fetishist who also writes on a keyboard. Think of the ideas in your head as rushing along and you're trying to transcribe them onto the page. The faster you can type, the less likely it is that the words and ideas will escape and get away from you. Thanks for your question, Crystal.